What's up, YouTube? Scott here with the Carreracafe, and behind me is a 2000 BMW E39 M5. If you've been following along on the channel, you'll know that before I was big into Porsches, I was actually a BMW enthusiast. I've owned 8 or 9 BMWs in my lifetime, from older M vehicles like this one to some late model M vehicles as well. This M5 actually belongs to my father. It happened to be at an indie shop by my house getting some tires and a suspension refresh, so I went ahead and picked up the vehicle so I could do a video with you guys. This has got some dining upgrades, and although this is a 2000, it's got some facelift items as well. The M5 in 2002 got a little bit of a facelift with some updated taillights, infotainment, steering wheel, and taillights. This is actually a pre-facelift vehicle, but like I mentioned, it's got some dining upgrades, exhaust, X-pipe, so I'm excited to give you guys a driving video and some of my thoughts. But these late 90s, early 2000 BMWs, in my opinion, were just peak performance as far as being a really driver's focused vehicle with not a bunch of nanny aids and things, and just enough technology to not be an inconvenience to drive today, right? You could daily drive this car. It's got good air conditioning, it's got a decent stereo, power locks, you know, things that you'd expect standard in a car that you'd want to spend every day in, but it has the performance of a very connected vehicle. So with that, let's get behind the wheel and I'll give you guys my thoughts. This car is so easy to drive. I'm going to do it barefoot because I forgot to bring actual shoes. So if you want proof that this can be a daily driver, I'm going to do this entire review barefoot, which I do not suggest doing. It's not safe. There's a rock underneath your foot. You go to hit the brake, you could potentially not actually apply the brakes. So right out of the gate, one of my favorite things about this car is the smell. If you've been in a late 90s, early 2000s BMW, you will know what I'm talking about. I think maybe it's the insulation, but it smells like a Crayola crayon. And I'm not saying it's a great smell, it brings me back to being in a late 90s, early 2000s BMW. I remember that smell from kind of Volkswagen and Audi in that era too. So actually, I helped my dad buy this car in Chicago about a year and a half ago, and he's slowly been doing stuff to it. I've owned 8 or 9 different BMWs, but I've never actually owned an E39 M5. I have had an E39, but it was just a 530 with the M Sport package. I've owned other M5s, I've owned E46 M3, X3M, but I've never actually owned this vehicle, which is surprising because this is one of the such great driver's cars that BMW has made. You know, I love the styling. This is back when M cars were not so in your face. I can count on one hand how many M logos are in this entire car. It doesn't have big blue brakes or green brakes that say, look at me, and there's not a bunch of carbon fiber. For the most part, it's pretty refined. It's a regular 5 Series, and if you didn't know what you were looking for, you might not notice some of the subtle things like the wider tires and the quad-tipped exhaust and the more aggressive, you know, kind of M bumpers. So I like that it kind of floats under the radar, you know. When you get thumbs up in this vehicle, it's because people know what it is. They just don't make driver-focused cars like this anymore. You know, I've driven a new M2 in a manual, and you know, the gearbox in this car has never been that great stock. It's a little rubbery, but it's super easy to drive. I know where I'm throwing the shifter. I know if I'm in gear or not. And the new BMWs they're worse. I would definitely put a short throw shifter in this car if it was mine. But if you're gonna daily it, it's kind of nice having the longer throws. It's just so easy to drive. Right now I don't have sport mode on, so we're just kind of cruising around. And mind you, these early 2000 BMW sport mode didn't do a whole lot except I think probably fuel timing and throttle response. It's not like it's dampening the suspension or anything, or tightening up the steering. And this car's only about 400 horsepower, but it's 400 usable horsepower, naturally aspirated V8. And so this vehicle has Dynon exhaust and then an X pipe as well. And man, I hope it comes through on the microphone. This is probably one of the best sounding vehicles I've driven in a long time. I'm gonna turn the air conditioning off, put it to sport. Listen to this downshift. It just sounds angry. And it's so easy to drive. I can rev match, downshift, super easy, and I've not spent very much time in this vehicle. You can just get in it, drive it. Clutch is easy. Again, I'm doing this all barefoot. I would not be able to drive my old air-cooled 911 barefoot. Wow. That sound is just unbelievable. This car is quiet from the factory. You know, I do think they could have made it a little louder from the factory, but obviously there's a lot of people who've just done muffler deletes. My dad wanted to retain the value as best he could, so you know, sticking with Dynon products tends to do that. The secondary market, you know, I feel like Dynon mods don't necessarily devalue a vehicle. Certainly the right Dynon mods sometimes actually increase value. So while we're waiting to get to some of the twisty roads and such, let's talk a little bit about value, because that's one of the reasons why this car is so appealing right now, in my opinion. You can get a experienced M5 with, you know, character, I would say. So not a perfect vehicle for like the mid 20s to mid 30s here in the US, which is just a ton of car for that amount of money. At that price point, it might not have some of the major mechanical maintenance items taken care of, but they're not all that expensive to own, right? I mean, if you go look at what you can spend 30 grand on, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that sound in this driving experience. You know, there's just enough electronic and analog combined in here. Wow, that sound. Now, what else is interesting about these, though, is I've seen crazy six-figure E39 M5s as well. I mean, they jump pretty quickly. There's a company, maybe it's in Ohio, I think, EAG, I think it's Enthusiast Auto Group. They take pride in selling like really sorted M cars. And I mean, if you look at their inventory right now, and I haven't even looked, but I know it's there, they're gonna have E39 M5s ranging from $50,000 to over $100,000 because they'll be super low mile, showroom condition, sorted vehicles. I actually just saw one of these listed on Facebook for $150,000 because it only had 900 miles on it. I don't think you're going to get that kind of asking price. But these do have a pretty wide spread in terms of, you know, the cost to get into, just depending on the condition, maintenance. This one in particular, I would say, is a driver's vehicle. It's just over 100,000 miles. It doesn't have any accidents or anything on the Carfax, but it doesn't have a ton of history. And there are some cosmetic blemishes, which I actually kind of almost prefer. Like I said, it's a little bit of character. I feel less guilty driving this thing. I'm sure my dad does too. And if those things bother you, you can fix them over time, you know? So the M5 only comes in a 6-speed manual. There was never an automatic in this, which is just so awesome that BMW knew to do that. They're all rear-wheel drive. There's no all-wheel drive back at this time. It's just such more of a driver's focused vehicle, and it's just enough power to where I can actually have fun with it, and it's not, you know, unsafe. I take this same route all the time on most of these cars that I drive, and recently I drove an Audi R8 on these same roads, and I mean, I couldn't get into the power band. Not like I can here. It just would be unsafe. I've always had a soft spot for this two-tone interior as well. We got pretty lucky finding this spec, because this, I don't know if you call this saddle brown or baseball or whatever they want to call it, but man, it looks so good. I don't know if this is the same as the Cinnamon that you can get in an E46 M3 or not. I think it's a little darker than that. As far as the interior goes, this is a pre-facelift, so it does have a kind of a weird tri-shaped steering wheel horn, and then the infotainment's one of those half split screen ones. If you get a 2002 or later, it'll be the facelift, where it'll have the more modern steering wheel and a full infotainment. But there are some pretty good aftermarket head units that you can drop in here that will make it feel a lot more modern. I think my dad's actually picked up one, just hasn't installed it yet. But if this was my vehicle, short throw shifter, the updated wheel, the infotainment, and you'd probably be set. I mean, there's enough modern convenience in here: heated seats, power windows, decent stereo. You know, I could daily drive this car, absolutely, and then have fun on the weekends in it. And it gets a lot of attention, and some of that is definitely because the exhaust. Like I said, this vehicle from the factory, I think it was a little too quiet, but it kind of went along with the subtle lines and look. It was cool back then, because it was like not everybody knew. Now M5s, or any M car for that matter, has got 10 different logos on the outside, and, you know, big look at me wheels and brakes and crazy colors. I mean, this was just so much more refined and subtle, you know? Wow, this thing is fun to drive. So I'm going to shut up a little bit and just do some driving, because we're getting out here on the more open part, just so you guys can listen to it. Broke traction a little bit there. That was weird. There's a guy in a golf cart there, driving on the street. That's not good. That's safe. Wow, it just sounds angry, that growl. Wow. That downshift was awesome. Wow. Wow. Actually, traction control cut power back there for me. I'm leaving traction control on. Wow. Now that'll make you smile, okay? This is proof that you don't have to spend a ton of money to have some fun. Nor do you need 600 horsepower. You just need a big old V8 and a 6-speed gearbox. I would say this sounds pretty close to an Aston Martin V8 Vantage with this exhaust. And that's one of my other favorite sounding V8s. Well, guys, if you're looking for a sports car, a daily drivable sports car, check out an E39 M5. I mean, it's a ton of value. This thing is so much fun to drive. You could definitely daily drive it. It would not hurt the bank. And I think these are, I really think the depreciation on these have ended. If anything, they're holding values and increasing now. You know, these bottomed out a while ago, and I think as these other German brands continue to push out more electronic nonsense, that these are just going to continue to become even more desirable. So thanks for coming along, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.